me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Eric Sonnet,
Yes.
Ken Parker,
Yes.
Eli Post,
Yes.
Barry Rosenblum,
Yes.
Bob Snyder, Cynthia Esther,
Yes.
Irfan Nasrullah, Brian Fitzgerald, and Jim Cirillo is still not feeling well, but I would also like to identify Dave Del Torrio, our Hopkinton town engineer. Present? Are you present? You are present. And Matt Chase, our VHB engineer, may also be speaking.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Matt. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, let's see. So again, good afternoon. And this is the open meeting of the Upper Charles Trail Committee being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we are complying with the executive order that suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The executive order, which we will find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as the public body makes provisions through adequate alternative means to ensure interested members of the public are provided reasonable access to the deliberations of this meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting, however, will allow and feature public comment. For this meeting, the Upper Charles Trail Committee is convening by video conference via Zoom and is posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conferencing. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care to not share your screen on your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available on the town's website via the web meeting calendar unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless otherwise noted. So we are now turning to the first item on the agenda, which was opening the meeting. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meetings. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will invite the board members to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comments as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all the commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. So, having gone through that, I would like to welcome everyone. I see a lot of people out there, and we are very grateful to have as many people here as possible. So just to let everyone know, we are going to do an agenda slight reorder. We are going to go to number 3 first, which is going to be receiving information from the town engineer on our public outreach and the update from the school committee meeting held on 1/13. The minutes and the liaison reports and the topics for the next meetings will be held as administrative items until after the public has their time to speak. So first, I would like to say, before we get started, that the Upper Charles Trail has just begun a process for receiving all of our ideas, all of the ideas that we're receiving from the public. And I would like to reinforce the fact that all ideas matter. We continue to look forward to as much input as possible and dialogue. This will all go to the benefit for the best possible outcome and product that we as a town are really desiring. This committee will continue to evaluate all of the alignments as we can continue to receive them and study them and engineer them. As a reminder, it is our charge to present 2 alignments to the select board. And that is our goal, and that is what we will do. So with that short introduction, I would like to call on David Del Torrio, our town engineer, and ask him to share with us the work that he has been doing, which we are grateful for. And Nat Chase from VHB, he also may have stuff to add along as well.
Thanks, Jane. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to tonight just present an update to committee on, I've been working with the committee itself, with Michelle, with VHB, to compile and summarize all the concerns heard to date, to try to present the first step in the public outreach for responding to all the concerns and questions, to develop a frequently asked question sheet. Tonight, I wanted to just review, the big questions that we seem to hear multiple times through all the public outreach. And then just give a brief summary of, some of the actions that the committee has taken or asked staff to work on in response to some of those larger questions, or I wouldn't say larger questions, but questions that have been asked by multiple people. There are individual emails and individual comments at public meetings. It didn't fall into these big, big buckets. Those will be answered specifically as well. But we've compiled, it's about 29 pages of comments. So we are working diligently, through snowstorms and everything else to get a response out to the public and to individuals who've asked questions. We do appreciate the patience. To date, after my quick summary of the FAQ, I'd also like to present, a recommendation to the committee on a path forward for public outreach on the project moving forward, how we might be able to streamline the process a bit. So based on that, one of the big questions that have been asked and there was concerns about was the proposed alignment along Hayden Row Street from about 147 Hayden Row to Granite Street. The town is currently investigating, the location of the right-of-way for Hayden Row. To date, we've had no definitive answers based on record searches at Mass Land Records, research of subdivisions and other roadway layouts along Hayden Row that definitively show what the right-of-way is. It's anything from 60 feet to 50 feet to 49 and a half feet to 40 feet to something that just references width varies. What's important for finding out that information is any proposed trail along Hayden Row would have to meet some sort of minimum width requirement. You know, a right of way of 40 feet wouldn't be able to fit a safe design through that corridor. A 50-foot corridor might be able to, designing it to minimum standards. But so the committee had asked me to look a little further into what that actual right of way is, because currently at the current stage is just still determining if it will fit within this right of way and which side of Hayden Row would it best fit. Our last resort is we're probably scheduling a meeting with the Registry of Deeds to see if we can actually find the original 1905 county layout plans. And once we get that information, yes or no, we'll be able to move this discussion forward a little more. But as the committee has given me direction, should the right-of-way investigation indicate private property might be impacted along this section, they stated publicly already that would be a last resort. They wouldn't be interested in impacting private property unless all other avenues and all other ideas and all other alternatives have been investigated thoroughly. So they prefer no impacts to private property, and will continue to evaluate other possible alignment alternatives to make this connection between 147 and Granite Street, regardless of, with the goal of not impacting private property or engaging residents if other alternatives show that there might be impact to private property elsewhere. Safety along this alignment was also a concern. And we should just let folks know, again, a 5-foot buffer would be proposed between the roadway edge and any trail. So just kind of from a proximity, a distance buffer would be provided. If there would be a trail designed along any kind of roadway on Hayden Row. A second big question brought up was concerns with new crossings of Hayden Row. And there's lots of discussion going back and forth between how many crossings there are and which ones are Hayden Row, which ones are not Hayden Row. The plan presented to date by the committee, it shows 2 alternatives on that plan. So that question can get confusing because there can be, all options were still open. There's 4 locations that are shown on that plan, but one is an existing crossing at EMC Park. So that isn't really considered a new crossing. There's a new crossing considered at Granite Street. But then there's 2 locations identified. There would be either one of those would be a crossing location. So ultimately there would be 2 new locations. There's concerns with crossings on Hayden Row because of speed and traffic. As with any crosswalk, all minimum design standards would be met and checked to determine if an unsignalized crosswalk would even be allowed. In addition to that, if one was allowed through design standard minimums, the town would require, exceeding any safety requirements that get designed into there. But I think the important part of that is there are design requirements that would not allow a crosswalk. So the town would never move forward, and the committee would never move forward with something that, would not meet some design safety standard minimums. There's also discussions about some accidents over the past 10 years, 2 accidents in particular. The police chief has summarized the findings of those previous accidents and submitted it to the committee. Just to limit discussions, excuse me. I have to let a couple people in, so hold on a minute. Sorry,
Multitasking.
doing double duty here as the moderator. And this really what, for both incidents, the drivers were charged with negligent driving among other charges. That's all we really, there was a lot of different discussions on why and how. That's just the final formal findings that the police department had for those two incidents. A third question was use of, concern with use of the Irvin Tadaro properties. And I just wanted to, reiterate when town meeting approved the purchase of these two properties, the ask in that article is that they were to be used for municipal uses, including trails. Along, so kind of a broad use, but trails were in there. The committee has, instructed me to continue to identify and evaluate trail options through these two properties and adjacent properties, as well as to address concerns brought up having to do with proximity to Marathon School, in designing in areas that would only allow construction of a trail. And I just uncovered through discussions with the town manager's office, there's a property that is abutting EMC Park, and the property the Middle Marathon School is on, that will soon become town property. So again, that's kind of how the process, if we let it proceed, things change, and we evaluate different options. Options today can change tomorrow. But if we can access this new town property, it would pull the distance of the trail kind of away from a corner of the Marathon School. And again, we'll just continue to coordinate with the school department and on all those options and to try to address their concerns. The another big one is, the Trails Club proposed alignment. The committee, they have already stated publicly that they initially investigated much of the alignment years ago and ran into some challenges. So they just continued to investigate other options. And the committee has said they'll continue to hear all ideas. They support the construction of trails throughout the town. And the committee has, held off on presenting the ENF to the select board based on the public feedback heard from that December meeting. So I hope all can, remember they are hearing the concerns of the public and have taken action on some of those already. The committee has stated they are not in opposition to a proposed alignment and are welcome to ideas for more trails. And just from my standpoint, there is no need for the town to decide between 2 or 3 or 4 trails. The town is always hopeful that, construction of all sorts of trails can proceed and it doesn't have to be a one or another scenario. There's been a lot of discussion of the construction costs, the questions on comparing one type of trail to another. Much has been presented comparing the cost of different types of trails. The town is preparing a comprehensive analysis of the cost of constructing different trails through different conditions. Just so that we can present to the public, a much more comprehensive evaluation of this type of trail or that type of trail. Not that one's better or one that's not better, but just what are the costs behind doing something one way compared to another. Is all the goal would be for that. But there's a lot of information that we're trying to track down on that. And that evaluation will continue. And when we have our results, we can present them through, what I hope will be a new website through the town webpage. But that will come kind of next. So those are the real big questions that have been asked. I know there are folks who are out there who have asked other questions. All those questions are being responded to. It's a coordinated effort between the town manager's office, the planning department, public safety, police and fire, consultants, town engineer, council. So there's a lot of effort that goes into responding to every single question that gets answered to the town. We're hoping to, I'm hoping, and my goal is to be able to get all of this prepared and on a new webpage that the town will develop for this project specifically within a couple weeks at the most, hopefully a week. And that's what I was also here to recommend to the committee on how to, engage the public moving forward. Prepare a web page, a website. That way we can create a location where all previous documents for the project can be accessed by the public. The public can sign up to receive project-specific notices. It's separate from the HOP notices, if people are familiar with that. They can also sign up with HOP notices. Would create a QR code for the project. Weekly or bi-weekly updates would be provided, and those folks who sign up will get those specifically. We can have a separate Q&A section that lists the history of all the questions, and that's where we will post all those 29 pages of questions and responses. Well, it's 29 pages of questions, probably be 40 pages of questions and responses. And specific email and phone number contacts for, project specialists who we would assign. That would be Michelle Murdoch, who folks, if you're familiar with the Main Street project, receives all questions and then kind of coordinates with the right folks in town for a response. So real quickly, that was, hope it wasn't too fast. There was a lot in there. A lot of these questions are not simple questions to answer. They're not, a lot of them aren't just technical in nature that town engineer is happy to answer quickly. They do require coordination, as I mentioned, with many different other departments. And we're just trying to be as transparent and as thorough as possible in these responses. So, and then we need to review them with the committee as well prior to posting them on a future website. And I think that's about it for now, Jane.
Dave, that was excellent summary. I really appreciate that. I'm not sure Matt has anything to add at this point, or maybe he's just going to be available for questions.
Yeah, I had asked him just kind of to be available, and
Yeah,
if there was a specific technical question, I
and
didn't.
that could be. Dave, can you open up the hands up option on your hosting device? Because I'm sure people will have questions now and we can get them unless they wave their hand in front of their face, but I think hands up.
Irfan.
Yes. So I just wanted to chime in about the various segments and what really has been looked into and what has not been looked into. And I think it kind of makes, from my perspective, I think segment 5, which is the campus connector and center trail, that aspect, and that's really, from my understanding, what's really been closely examined at this point, versus the segments on Hayden Row where the crossings are that have not really been fully vetted yet. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So
Maybe David and Matt can add to it, but yes, we have already done, I believe, 75% of the work on section 5. Correct me, Matt, if I'm wrong, or David. And we're looking to CPC to get extra money this year to finish it off. Is that correct?
Is this section 5 and 6?
No, just he asked specifically about 5, which is the campus trail connector, which is from Center Trail through the school campus to Hayden.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find
Yeah,
the
we-
raise hand option.
Jane, we have, the plans are preliminary design, so they're about 50%.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, Irfan, the ask to CPC this year at town meeting would be to finish the design of that section.
Okay, so I know a lot of the public comment that I've been aware of and been made public to me is really with regard to the makeup of the trail, but more so the location and the crossings. And I just wanted to make the point that it seems a little premature when that segment has not really been fully vetted yet.
Dave or Matt, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I know from a trail standpoint, an overall trail standpoint, the connection of, town common to EMC is kind of, an overall town goal and wish. And
Mhm.
with the preliminary design and the grant funding already spent, those projects could really, even the project on the Irvin Tadaro property could move forward as separate projects to any overall trail, Upper Charles Trail, if need be. Like all these sections will probably be built individually with an overall goal to connect, Milford to Ashland.
Mhm.
And even building sections and different types of trails on different sides of Hayden Row. I think that's ultimately the goal is, just to let's build trails, because trails are always something in any survey residents say they want, as well as to, utilize the Irvin Tadaro property for some of the uses it was purchased for. Even if they say a project stops at 147 Hayden Row, which is the end of segment 6, the overall trail network could still, as we say, moving forward, continue to evaluate options, utilizing that section or not. It could be a separate spur or a loop or something like that as part of a bigger network.
Right. Through the chair, I just want to say, thank you for clarifying that. And, it's just one person, but my vision is a full network with a main spine that would be the main connector between Milford and Ashland. But having a whole network where various activities could be taking place on various spurs and whether it be the main spine, whether it be on a spur, a loop that goes around, but to have an entire network that the whole town could use. So thanks for kind of clarifying that.
Thank you, Irfan.
And Jane, can I mention through the chair, do folks have on the bottom of their screen a reactions kind of, there's a raise hand option in there if you click on it.
I'm not seeing it. Oh, reactions.
I
Yes,
think if you click on that, there's
click on the reactions, folks. And before you let other folks in, Dave, I should ask the other committee members besides Irfan, if they have any questions.
Sure.
Eli, Eric, Cynthia, Barry, Ken. Any of our folks have any questions or not yet? Okay. So I guess we can go to the folks, go to the reaction button. You'll see the thumbs up or hands raised feature. If you're interested in asking a question, please go there. Okay, so I see Barry and Ken. So how about if we take Barry first? Because he's
Just a
the
quick
first one
one,
I saw.
quick one, Jane, thanks. To Dave. I recall you said you're gonna be putting up the material on a website to be developed within a couple of weeks, hopefully. So what's the plan to notify everybody when it's available to look over the document you prepared to talk to tonight that you just went through? How do you notify everybody in the town that's interested?
In the entire town, there's some, we have a hop notices. We have, there'll probably be a press release as well. We'll put notification on our website. we'll probably put a notification on your folks, your own website. So it's a, the hop notices and the life is more of a, hop notices goes out to the media, it goes out to Twitter feeds, it goes out to anybody who signed up for anything through the town website to receive notification of notices that go out. And then we could, as we move forward, just try to get the word out through that. We have flyouts. We have handouts that we've done before that we put at town buildings. It's like a flyer. It's got a QR code. It would have, new web page or new website for the Upper Charles Trail. Scan the QR code and you just kind of list a few different things, project contacts, the website, maybe a graphic of some sort.
Really exciting. Is that good for you, Barry?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
How about, I believe I saw Ken Parker out there with his hand up. Are you still there, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Through the chair, two kind of comments. One is a follow-up to what Irfan mentioned about the network idea. I pretty much agree with that, the spine road is the critical thing, and accessory connections would be nice if we had the spine. The accessory connections, in my view, have less value on their own. They might have more value if they actually connected to neighborhoods, but if they connect, for example, from Hayden Road to EMC Park, which you can already get to without any additional work, I don't think that's accomplishing much. My second question, more to Dave, which I don't really want him necessarily to answer at this point, is that he mentioned the right-of-ways and what could be tolerated with regards to the roads. I assume that would also include a sidewalk, and presumably the one on the west side of Hayden Row in addition to the trail. I don't know whether the sidewalk was a part of the 40-foot buffer or not. That was what my question had to do with on that point.
Okay, thank you. Dave and maybe Matt.
You reference a site walk. I'm not.
No, I think he said sidewalk, right?
Oh,
Sidewalk.
I'm sorry. So I guess I got caught up on that site walk. What are you asking?
Okay, I can answer it, Dave. It's
right.
In addition to a shared use path on one side, yes, a sidewalk on the other side would be explored. So that is included in the evaluation, Ken.
Does that answer your question, Ken, or do you have anything further? I think he was looking for a comment.
It's just a matter of how much width is needed for both the sidewalk, the road, and the shared use path distinct from the sidewalk. That's all. But I assume that that's what's to be figured out, and so it affects how much width one needs of the right of way. That's
Correct. But Matt, Matt and I went through a simple, where you have a 5-foot sidewalk, you have a 10-foot path, you have a 5-foot buffer. What was the full width, Matt? Was it 50?
Yeah, it's somewhere around 50 feet, give or take a couple feet.
Right. So
depending on utilities and what have you.
Right. And so you'd really be looking at I think a right of way, if it's 50 feet or so, would be able to fit in all the components at the, with the proper buffers, and you wouldn't request variances. But anything below that, you'd start impacting private property. But the problem therein is we can't find the original layout plans for Hayden Row, so we're still looking.
Okay, so does that answer your question there, Ken? Okay, I think Ken had one other question, which I thought was interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said that you thought that a spine road was fine. But a spur trail might be better because a spur trail can go into the neighborhoods. Am I misconstruing your words?
yeah, I was trying to say that I didn't think spur trails would be useful unless they connected to neighborhoods, or at least not worth a lot of money, for the reason so sections, part of the UCTC vision currently to go from Hayden Road to EMC Park and then back out to Hayden Road does not accomplish anything in terms of connections, because one can already get to EMC down the current road. You can already go down through Marathon Elementary's access road to get to EMC that way. And so I don't think those other, the trail adds anything in terms of connections, and more valuable connections would be extended from EMC to the two neighborhoods, which is not part of the UCTC plan, but those types of connections would be valuable. Of course, there would likely be a lot of public opposition by abutting properties to those as well, but at least those would provide us a public value if it were done on their own. So these other spurs, so 5 and 6 would make sense if we had this, the whole trail going down from Milford to Ashland, taking advantage of that. Otherwise, I don't think it does make any sense.
Dave or Matt, do you want to take a stab at that?
Well, yeah, I mean, my comment was, funds had been, and grant money has been spent to get section 5 to the preliminary design stage. I think the original intent of that two, maybe 3 years ago, was to extend the campus trail that's from Main Street over to the Loop Road, over to EMC Park. And what that would accomplish is, you'd have connectivity from EMC Park all the way to Main Street. And when the Main Street project is completed in a year or two, that bike path will extend that connection all the way over to the common. So you can start seeing some sort of, I wouldn't call that a spine, but, a longer trail that, can bring folks from EMC Park to the downtown area without driving. And then use of the Irvin and Tadaro properties, is just another extension of that. Those are two really big parcels, and it's something the town has already, said at town meeting that they want to occur. They want to have trails in those two properties. And this would just be a way to do that. Or at
Okay,
least
Ken,
design
you all
them.
set? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Or at least to design them to get to a point where you could look for construction funding to actually do those. We're not talking about building them at this point. We're talking about funds for designing.
Okay, so I think those were your 2 points. Ken, are you all set? Okay, thank you. I see Cynthia's hand is up.
Hi, thank you. I want to build on what Dave has said, but bring us back to one of the main purposes. The big overarching purpose of the Upper Charles Trail is to connect Ashland to Milford. It really is a big overview that we're trying to do, so people, not just from neighborhoods, but from towns, have a longer distance to take their bikes and to walk and hike, with all the options of any spur trails. But the reason that we have focused initially on the campus trail connector is because we are looking for a brighter, greener future when it really is safe and it really is encouraged to have kids walk to school, kids ride bike to schools, and parents walk to pick them up, and for siblings to be able to go from high school to pick up a younger sibling. We're really hoping to encourage folks to get out, of course, but to be able to get the connectivity from schools downtown to the common to EMC Park, and that's kind of what we're aiming for. But of course, in this whole process of listening and gathering what people are interested in, what people want, our grand vision needs to take that all into account. But that's just the big picture. Thanks.
Well said. Thank you. Okay, so I'm looking out here. Are there any other folks that would like to have a comment? Right now, I'm not seeing anyone. Do you see anything, Dave?
I don't see any hands raised, no.
No. Does everyone know to go to the bottom of the screen, go to reactions? That's where the hands up feature is.
I do think they might be able to just unmute themselves as well, Jane, if they wanted to speak.
Yeah, that's very true as well. So if you have something that you would like to ask or have a comment on, we welcome you to unmute yourself and state your name and your address, and please speak up.
So not really a question, but more just a general comment. I just want to say you guys have been doing a lot of work on this. And just want to say, you know, from my perspective, thank you. It's really appreciated how much work has gone into this, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. From all the committee members, I like to say thank you. Cynthia, do you have another comment? Your hand is up. Unmute yourself, Cynthia.
Yep. Yeah. One last comment is from our public meeting. One comment that came up, I think twice, that I go back to almost every day and think over is how people said, those two people said that they didn't know anything about Upper Charles Trail and what was in progress. And I've thought immensely about that. And the whole committee really heard that. And that's why Dave Del Torrio and Matt Chase have been in a lot of contact. And Dave is working with the town and IT to really pull this off. So yes, it is incumbent upon us, the committee members, to have that transparency and information out for you. But we also need to ask, now that you know that this exists, please check in on the town site. And when you can see the meetings under eGov that are coming up, please do use that QR code on the flyers and on the different sites, because we're answering really that question. Thank you all.
Well said. Thank you. Okay, just picking through here. I guess I don't see any other public comments. Well, I guess with that, maybe we'll move on to the rest of our administrative items on our agenda. Dave, if you see anyone pop up, let us know, but we're going to try and get through our administrative stuff. So first off is reviewing of the minutes of 11/17/21, 1/5/22, and 1/19/22. I hope all the members got a chance to read all of the, all of the minutes. And does anyone have any comments or revisions, suggestions on those minutes?
Jane, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Do I hear a second on that?
I second that.
Is there any discussion?
I got,
Ken?
my only question is whether we've already approved them. I couldn't remember, but my impression from reading Bob's latest minutes was that we did approve the first two of them in our last meeting. So I just don't want to approve them twice. So it's a cause a problem, but for that, I'm in favor of approving everything.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. I think they were approved with the corrections that were going to be made by Bob at the last time, but we had to bring them forward again. Am I correct on that, Bob?
The 11/17 minutes never were reviewed.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's way, way back.
Because I guess
Slipped through the cracks.
they slipped through the cracks. We had a meeting on 12/1 and 12/8, and they weren't included then, and then they were forgotten after that. So I happened to notice that before Elaine did. She's the one that usually finds those things.
Good catch. Does that answer your question, Ken?
Yeah, I'm fine with going forward in whatever way makes most sense, as long as it's, what is the proper way to go. So I'll assume that it is.
Did you get a chance to read the minutes? Bob's just sent them out this week. Did you have any comments about them? Okay, good. Anyone else have any comments about those minutes? Okay, so anyone else have any comments about the discussion? All right, I'm not seeing any. All right, so we have a motion and a second. So I'll do the roll call. I can find my list here. All in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes,
Eli,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes,
Bob,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes,
Irfan,
I think Irfan
he may have,
dropped off.
okay, that's fine. I think he had a hard stop at 6, so he had to
Yeah,
go.
I think so.
He'd probably have to abstain anyway. I'm not sure he was there. Jane is a yes, so they pass unanimously. Okay, so we got that out of the way. I would say update from the school committee meeting, but I would say David already touched on that and his review. So I don't think we have to state any further discussion on that, except to say that we're continued to looking for options and alternatives, and we continue to look forward to working with the school committee going forward. Liaison reports. Do we have any liaison reports?
Jane,
Yes,
don't we have some other minutes?
there was 11/17, 1/5, and 1/19. I thought we were made a motion to accept them broadly. Was that not
Oh,
correct?
I thought we just accepted 11/17.
Eric, do you remember your
My
motion?
motion was for all of them.
Oh, okay.
And who seconded that?
Eli.
Eli,
did.
was that your intention as well?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion was to accept all of them. Then we had a brief
Okay.
discussion.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, glad you spoke up. So liaison reports. Anyone from the committee have a liaison report except me? Let me go through my scroll here. Let's see.
I have a
anything
brief
from Parks?
report.
Go ahead, Eli.
I have a brief report on Ashland. They completed a very short section of their trail going from approximately Stone Park to the access road to the MBT stop. And they're pretty much doing what we're doing of trying to get the trail done in manageable increments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do you have anything from Parks and Rec?
Nothing new from Parks and Rec, but they've been interested in what's going on with Upper Charles and Trails
Sure.
Group. Yep.
Yeah, well, they're just as invested in trails as we all are, so it's all good. Okay, so I will have a quick update from Planning Board. And in fact, it's going to be on the next agenda item. But the Planning Board recently finished our survey of a trails pedestrian survey. Survey, excuse me. And the Planning Board reviewed it at our last meeting. And the chairman has put forth an invitation to the TCMC, the Trails Club, Halt, and Upper Charles Trail, and anyone else that's interested. I think he threw out the school committee, Parks and Rec, and I'm missing a few, but he is willing to go to each and every committee and board and give a readout of the metrics and the concept of the findings of that trail study committee. So I reached out right away and engaged him for our next meeting on the 16th. So he is booked for our next meeting on the 16th of January. So yeah, so that will be very interesting to see, for everyone to see how the town is moving forward on this whole subject. It's obvious that so many people and folks are interested in trails throughout town, and this will be a very interesting piece of information for folks to read. Okay, so that's it for that piece. Any other liaison? I don't see any other liaison. Okay. So I guess I just hit on the first topic for the next meeting, and that will be our guest speaker, Gary Trendle, the planning board, to update us on the recently concluded Trails and Pedestrian Connectivity Survey, to do a readout on that. Any other items from the committee that they would like to have on the agenda if we have time?
Yeah, I think we should get an update on the website and all the material and
So an update from the town engineer.
yeah.
Okay, got it. Because there could be other stuff that comes along from the town engineer and that. Good idea.
Jane, I believe you skipped over number 4, the update from the school committee meeting.
No, I just did that, Eli.
Okay.
It was just to refresh. It was that we are continuing to look forward to working with the committee, the school committee, as with sharing our various alternatives. And I mentioned that Dave Del Torrio also mentioned it in his presentation tonight. The town has recently purchased additional properties behind both EMC Park and the Irvine Tadaro property, which may give us access to another alternative. And yet that's yet to be explored. Am I correct in that, Dave?
Yeah, there was a question just asked in the chat. I don't think Peter Lagoy has video.
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking at the participants page. He submitted a question that said there was a vote at the school committee meeting that would seem to be important to share. Would
Correct.
you like me to
Yeah, go
update?
ahead.
So I was at the school committee meeting. It was a couple of weeks ago. They voted, I believe, I'm still trying to clarify what the motion was, but I believe the vote was that they don't support trails on the Irvine Tadaro property, which would be segment 6. And I just think, that vote, is a vote on the school committee. And when you went to the school committee, they presented concerns about a trail alignment through the properties, more or less close proximity to the school, Marathon School, and potential impacts to other future buildings on the other property. Any trail I think you folks would propose, you responded, would go within buffer zones and areas that nothing else could be built in. And also, as you mentioned earlier, there is a piece of property that abuts both the Marathon School property, which I don't know which one is, a Tadaro or Irvine property, but the property the school is built on, in EMC Park, There's a subdivision that's going in right behind both of those. And a piece of property is being transferred to the town as part of that development. And that will allow us more flexibility. I say us, would allow, designers more flexibility in coming up with different alignment alternatives to extend the distance. The proximity of this trail would be to where they have outside activities for the children and pushes it more towards just parking areas. So we will continue to, coordinate those changes with the school committee. As you folks continue to want to use those properties for trails.
Yeah, and I think it's just very important to stress that this is a plan. It's a work in progress. And as we gain more property or different options, we have a responsibility to evaluate them all. And that's what we're going to do. So I see two hands up. Ken Parker and Cynthia. Ken, do you want, I don't care who goes first.
Yeah, my first question has to do with what Dave just said. I assume that from what I think I understood, that the property actually has been bought right now. So there must be parcel numbers associated with that property. And I was just wondering if there's a way for us to know which ones they are so we can look it up on our map. I'm not clear on it at this point.
Give me.
I'm fine with you just sending a message with those parcel numbers after the meeting. That's
okay. Yeah, I will. Elaine Lazarus had sent me a plan of the subdivision and the area that's going to be transferred to the town.
Right. So my second question had to do with the next meeting. We've discussed previously that we're compending together a list of public comments, but I haven't seen that. So I assume that's being worked on, but probably we ought to continue maybe just an update on where that is at the next meeting so that we can understand what's happening. Possibly it will not be necessary because perhaps this compendium will be released in the meantime, but I hope to see it at some point. I don't think I've missed it. So what I've seen is a lot of individual emails, which I expect will be amalgamated together into some document that the public will have access to. And that's, I propose that as discussing that as a topic for next meeting.
I think that would, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but that would be included as we put in number one item is the update from Dave, the town engineer.
Yeah,
on the work that he's been working on.
I'm fine with that, so long as it gets covered.
Through the check. Yeah, that's what I'm working on now, Ken. I'm hoping to have something prior to your next meeting that you folks can review and comment on. And that can be maybe the update and the discussion during the next meeting. Depending on how much snow we get next.
I know you might be busy shoveling. Is that acceptable to you, Ken? Yeah, he's trying his best.
Yeah, like I had mentioned, we literally have 29 pages of all the comments and questions and emails.
A lot of documents to go through.
And we don't want to just we do bounce it off all the different departments, and just to make sure, the responses that do get, submitted are as accurate and thorough as possible.
Okay. So Sin has a comment or a raised hand.
Yes, if I may go back to the school committee and the school committee vote. My understanding of committees and commissions is that when we take a vote, it's to accomplish something, to spend money, to do something. And since the Upper Charles Trails Committee does not require the school's approval for this project to move forward, I'm not even sure it was a legit vote or why they voted on it. And an example is when Upper Charles came to Parks and Rec meeting among the commission, told us what was happening with the plans thus far. And we discussed it among the commission, and we made all of our comments and asked our questions, but we were very clear that we should not vote on whether the whole group approved or kind of what we were. So I think the school committee, having made that vote, has maybe caused some confusion. It does say to me two things. One, that the Upper Charles Committee continues to go to every board, every commission, every group, and try to keep people up on the information, which I think is wonderful. And the other thing is, it sounds like we need to work harder. Just work harder and continue to talk to all the commissions and committees. So thank you. I'm sure you want to wrap up the meeting. Thank you.
All very excellent, good points from everybody. Thank you, Sin. I really appreciate that clarification. Okay, anything else before we move to adjourn? We're
Motion to
open.
adjourn.
Yeah, Ken, we got one right here. Ken's got his hand up. Unmute yourself, Ken, please.
Yeah, I don't know, is it appropriate for us to think about expending money to get public feedback prior to spending more money in this direction? Just thinking that might be well spent money,
Okay.
so that ahead of town meeting, we're prepared with understanding what the public wants. I don't know how easy that is, whether it costs money, how to do it. I'll let you guys figure that out.
Okay, so through the chair, Dave has some information on that.
Yeah, Ken, town managers made me aware, the town has been, I don't know if it's a new service or it's a new process, of doing public surveys to gather information. I think this would be a kind of a perfect example of, coming up with a few survey questions. That the key to any kind of survey is to make sure we get the questions right. So maybe we could work on, through the chair, we could have some sort of, I don't know, like would work with individuals and trying to develop a survey for whatever it is you folks would like to get input from. I don't believe it costs anything. I think it's through our, I think our IT department set something up so that we can do townwide surveys like that.
Okay, so good discussion here. So it sounds like that might be an agenda item for us to at least discuss it the next meeting.
Something we could discuss, with town staff, and Michelle and I can talk to IT and town manager
and
see how it
then-
works and go from there.
Okay, thank you. That would be great. If you could give us maybe an outline or some, sample questions or something like that, that would be, or whatever, and the committee might even have.
Yeah, I mean, typically we would kind of look for feedback from what the committee is looking for from the public.
Okay,
And we take all those answers and kind of bounce them off, the folks, town manager's office, Elaine, John Geltich,
sure.
folks like any other departments, and they will always have good feedback.
Yeah, they do. I know the planning board has a healthy history of doing surveys. I'm sure they have a good history on that. Okay,
Jane-
good question.
Jane,
Yes.
if we're going to do a survey with 20,000 people living in Hopkinton, I want to understand how many people respond to the survey to make it valid.
Okay, so I think that's always the risk with surveys. I think I heard before, this is just a number from somewhere in the back of my head, that a good result would be 150 to 200 average. I know with the planning board, and you'll hear this from Gary, there were over 300, and they were pretty ecstatic because they thought that was an excellent, it gives you kind of a guideline, and maybe Michelle and Dave and would have more to weigh in on this. I'm no way am I an expert on this, but
Well, I think we should
always good to do that
discuss it.
outreach.
I think we should discuss it because 5% of our town's population is 1,000 people. And when you start talking 150 and 200 people, you're talking about less than 1%.
Right.
So I think we should have some guidelines of what is a meaningful survey and not our past experience when we had 10,000 people in the town.
Okay, so that can be a topic for next,
Yes, that's where I want it.
for the next meeting, and we'll get, in the meantime, we'll get some professional feedback on that.
Yep.
Yes,
through-
Dave.
I will ask that question, the town manager's office and planning, in the planning department.
Sure.
We'll have the most experience,
Yeah,
as well as IT as well. They've done some surveys and track the number of people who respond, so forth and so on.
if nothing else, it gets the conversation going. Or helps to continue the conversation. That was a good question, Eric. Anything else? I don't see any.
Make a motion, we end this meeting.
Adjourn would be the word.
I couldn't think of it. I can't believe
I
it.
know, that's okay. We all have senior moments. Do we have
I'll second.
Okay, Ken is seconding it. All in favor? I have to do the roll call, actually. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Any discussion? No discussion. Okay. Eric,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Eric? I mean,
Yes.
Eli,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes,
Bob,
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
I think Irfan stepped off, and Jane is a yes. So with that, I think that's been a great meeting, and I would just like to thank Dave for all of his hard work, and Matt for standing by, and Michelle for jumping in and willing to help us out here. It's all valuable. It's all good. It's all for a good cause. So thank you
Good
all.
job by everybody.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Night.
all right.
Recording stopped.